Hello, my name is George Gwynn. I'm doing this video for my good friend and brother, Jaja Moore. I call him Jay. Just want to reflect a little bit on share a little bit about my military career. I joined the Army, the United States Army, right out of high school. In fact, it's kind of ironic because when I was in high school, I had no intentions of joining the military. But when a gentleman or a young man who graduated the year before me, he came home for hometown recruiting to recruit people, and he gave me a really interesting recruiting to lure me in. He said, I can get you out of school, I can get you out of class. All you got to do is come down to the recruiting station, talk to Sergeant Simpson. His name was James Simpson. Went down there. He got me out of school. I went down to Philadelphia, the Mets, downtown Philadelphia. Toured, took a test. Next thing you know, I was raising my hand, and then to actually leave and join the military, my parents, they had to actually sign me to go away because I was still in the 12th grade. And by the time I left, I had just graduated from high school, and I left. And I was an E1 starting from scratch, 17 years old, and well, I was 18 years old, and going off to basic training. And I had a great time from that point all the way until the time I retired. After my basic training, I went to Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana, for finance school. And I finished my finance training. My first duty station was Neu-Ulm, Germany. It's in Bavaria, and I did that for 2 years. And again, I just want to say, every place that I went in the military was fulfilling. It was enlightening. I learned something every place I went. One of the things that the military wanted you to do when they sent you to another country, they had this program called Head Start, where they wanted you to learn the basics in the language. And the first week that you're there, you learn they teach you very basic language and about the culture, and that really helped me out a lot. And it even carried forward to today, because I've been to Germany, Korea, a few Spain, Italy. So here in the Washington D.C. Washington D.C. area is very diverse. Some of the words that I've learned from some of the places that I've been, I didn't forget, and I've used it here, and it is really helpful. So my military experience from that aspect was really great. When I left Germany after 2 years, I went to Fort Hood, Texas, for about 9 months. I did what they call a stateside swap. There was a young lady at Fort Lee, Virginia, that wanted to come to Fort Hood, and I swapped with her. And I went up to Fort Lee, Virginia, which is what they call the United States Army Supply School and Food Service School. And I worked in the finance field in support of both schools, and I was there for about 18 months, and that's where I met my first wife. My life changed, got married, and then I got married in February. By that October, they had sent me to Korea. I did 1 year in Korea. Stayed in I was stationed on what they call the DMZ, which is a area between North and South Korea. I went on paid missions up into the DMZ, and that was a very scary but a very enlightening experience. Korea, no one knows, is a country that's prepared for war even today. So you go through all these checkpoints and everything like that. It's nothing like what we have here. So when you come back to the States from places like Korea, you are very grateful for what we have here in the United States. I left Korea, and my next duty station was what we call the Military District of Washington, which is this area here. I currently live in Northern Virginia. My first assignment for the Military District of Washington, I worked in D.C. Right outside Fort McNair, and then I worked in the Pentagon, and then I worked at Fort Myer, all as a finance soldier, in and out process. Did a whole lot of things. The Pentagon was very, again, enlightening. We supported the old guard, which is when you go to the cemetery, the National Cemetery, the Gardens of Stone, as they call it. You have those soldiers there. We supported them. It learned a lot, saw a lot. It was a very, very good experience. I was here in the Military District of Washington. Me and my first wife. We didn't have any kids, so and it was really, really good. Great time, because she's from Petersburg, Virginia, right near Fort Lee, which is about 2 hours south. And where I grew up is in the Philadelphia area, which is about 2.5 hours north. So we were right in the middle. We could go home. It was really, really great. And after about 18 months, I got orders to go to Italy. And at that point, I never really ran into many other soldiers that were in that had been stationed in Italy. So I didn't know anything about Italy. And where I was stationed, it was what they call a NATO assignment. So the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, it consists of other countries, and we fell under NATO also. So you had Great Britain, and we're working with all these different countries. And the American base that supported us was a Navy base right in what they call Naples, Italy. And then the NATO base was maybe about a couple miles still within the city of Naples. And Naples is a very interesting city. It's a large city. It has the mentality of a New York City, but it looks like Miami, Florida, because it got the palm trees. It's right on the water. It's the weather is great. I think the coldest it ever got maybe had been 35 degrees, but they have the mentality of New York City. It reminds me of a northeastern city. Can get a little rough being stationed and working right there in the city, but where they had the soldiers living, we lived 17 miles from the city of Naples, out in what they call Pineta Mare, which in Italian is the pine trees on the ocean or on the beach. And we lived in these apartments on the beach, and it looked beautiful. But once you got into the neighborhood, again, it was rough. It was like almost like living in the projects. But again, it was a great experience. No cell phones, no cable TV. What you needed was 2 VCRs. We did have an antenna, and you hook the antenna up to your TV with the cable, and we were able to get the military station, which is one station. So whatever they played is what we had to watch. Yeah. So if they were watching a hillbilly movie or a western, that's what we had to watch. So if you wanted to broaden your horizons, you had to get a VCR, and the video stores were popping because everybody got a VCR, had at least one or two, and we were out there playing a lot, watching a lot of videos. If you're a sports fan and you wanted to watch like the Super Bowl or a big game like live, they were 6 hours ahead of us.
Right.
There were 6 hours behind. We were 6 hours ahead of the United States.
Right.
So the game was at 6. It was
at midnight.
It was midnight. Yeah. Or if the game was at 2, it's 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
So you give yourself a little rest in the after work, get up in time to go watch the game at 2:00 in the morning. I spent many a nights watching all the games, football, basketball, live games. It was really, really great experience. I spent 3 years there. My daughter was born there, and they had no military hospital. It was a makeshift hospital. They turned like a old building in the city of, they call it Puxwally, is where Sophia Loren was born, is from. An old building right outside the Navy base. They made it into a hospital on top of this hill. And that's where my daughter was born, natural childbirth. So she was born in Italy. She has an Italian birth certificate and everything. Italy was probably the most telling assignment that I had. And then when I left Italy, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, which is the home of the infantry. And if you didn't know how to soldier, that's where you know how to, that's where you learn how to be a real soldier, because that's the home of the infantry. That's the infantry school. And we spent a lot of time out in the field. We spent a lot of time training.
Field problems.
Say it again.
Field problems.
Oh, a lot of field problems. Yes, you got yep. And we supported the infantry school. They had basic training for the infantry soldiers coming in. So we supported that. We supported sharpshooter school. It was a lot. Fort Benning had a lot of schools. It was a large base. It was in Columbus, Georgia. Part of the base is in Alabama. They had like the Chattahoochee River, cross over the Chattahoochee River into Alabama, and part of the base is in Alabama. And it was a interesting assignment. We got there. It was me, my first wife, and my daughter. We arrived there in August of 1990. By mid-September, I was in Saudi Arabia, because by then, that's when Desert Storm had kicked off. Yeah, so my wife was, at the time, had a 2-year-old child living in Fort Benning, Georgia. Her husband had just been whisked away to go to Desert Storm. So she's in a strange city, didn't know anybody. We were only there a month, and so it was pretty stressful experience for all of us. I'm away, she's there by herself. Her mother had cancer in Virginia, so it was really, really tough experience. She had found a job, got settled, and one of the things that the military stresses is recognizing the Army wife or the military wife. They do a lot. They go through a lot. And that's a prime example of what I'm talking about with the military wife. They support their husband, they support the mission, they support the base, but yet and still they carry on with their normal life. She had her own career, because when I first met her, she was working for the government at Fort Lee. And she transferred each place that we went to, and she got a job on the base. So she had her job, continued her career. She had a young daughter, found daycare for her, and continued on with her life. So kudos to her, and what she did while we were at Fort Benning. And I was at Desert Storm, and we left Fort Benning Airfield, and we landed in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Yeah, and they had no place for us because it was a war. So it was kind of like in the beginning, not a lot of things were set up. So they put 700 of us in a garage, a parking garage in downtown Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And we stayed there for about 2 weeks, ate airline food. and they found this city, a desert city that was built for Bedouins, way out in the middle of the desert, and they built it for 9,000 people. Well, they're Bedouins, so they're not going to stay there. So it was deserted, and the Air Force took it over. So Josh, it'd be interesting for you to hear this story, because everywhere the Air Force goes, they have nice. It's a lot nicer. If we have a tent set up for let's say the mess hall, the Air Force tent is going to have air conditioning. We're just going to have a regular tent. The Air Force is going to have air conditioning. If the Air Force is going to take over an area, they're going to have all the bells and whistles, and that's what we had. The Air Force took over this base, and they call it Epcot City. It was for 9,000 soldiers. We had basketball courts. We had those mess tents. The food was great. Air conditioned tents where we ate in. They had a little area called Central Park that they built. Like on Fridays, you could go in, and they had like a DJ come in, play music for us where we could dance outside. It was really nice. They really did really, really well. And my unit was based right there at Epcot City, but they split our unit up. We had 2 platoons. The first platoon, when we got to the Epcot City out in the desert, in that little city, we spent about 2 weeks. And then the first platoon, they sent them way out in the desert, living in tents. And then after about 9 weeks, they flip-flopped us. So we had to go out after 9 weeks living in the desert. The first desert place we went to was I forgot the name of the base, but it was run by an infantry division out of Fort Stewart. And we had the outhouses, we had the showers outside. Everything was virtually pretty much outside. I mean, we slept in the tents. It was very hot, a lot of dust, so much dust. You almost say, well, or dust and sand. It makes you wonder, well, where's the beach at? we left that base, and they sent us further out, and it was a 3-tent situation. We had 3 tents, and it was just our platoon out in the middle of nowhere. So we had our one outhouse for just our platoon. We had to take care of our own outhouse, do the maintenance for the outhouse. So all the waste, we had to burn it, bury it on ourselves, pour our own water on the top of the tank for our showers outside. It was hard work. Played a lot of cards. I learned how to play bid with in Saudi Arabia, because there was a lot of downtime. But when we had assignment, we did work hard. And then after that 9 weeks was up, we came back and joined with the major unit, stayed for about a couple weeks, and then came on back to Fort Benning. And when I got back to Fort Benning, I decided to leave the active Army after about 12 years, and I joined the active Army Reserves. And I came back here. I came back to the Washington D.C. area, where we lived here in Alexandria. Got an apartment after about a year. Bought a house down in Woodbridge, Virginia, Dale City. The kids, by that time, they were young, and I made a decision to get out because the kids, we were moving every 3 years. So I wanted to keep, we wanted the kids to be stable. So the kids, they started school in Woodbridge, Virginia, and they graduated. My daughter graduated from high school in Woodbridge, Virginia. My son graduated from high school here in Alexandria. So that was a good move. I joined the Army Reserves, where you do 1 weekend a month, and you do at least 1 weekend away every summer. Sometimes it could be in a if something came up. For instance, they had an assignment for us to go down to Honduras for 2 weeks. So I've been down to Honduras. I went out to training to Fort Ben Harrison, Indiana a couple times. Our reserve unit got called up to go to support the Kosovo mission. Our reserve unit went to Germany and they split us all up. And a lot of us went down into Kosovo. I never did, but they moved us around. I was in Würzburg, Germany, and then did some time in Hanau. And so in support, that deployment was probably about, I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 months, 4 to 6 months, again, away from the family. Came back, unfortunately got a divorce, but continued with the reserves. Again, that's 1 week in a month, and 2 weeks away. They call it a drill. And each time I got promoted to move to another unit, which was away. So I'd say for about maybe 3 years, I did 3 years at a unit up in Baltimore. So 1 week in a month, I was driving up to Baltimore from Virginia, spending, for a whole weekend. We had a Saturday drill, finish the drill, come back to Dale City, get up Sunday morning, drive back up to Baltimore, it was great. It was really, really good. I mean, I met a lot of good friends who I still keep in contact with today. Again, I learned a lot with the language, the cultures, a lot of discipline, matured. And then after we came back from the support of Kosovo, I did a few months and I decided to retire. So all total, I did 22 years. I retired as a Sergeant First Class E7, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. I don't miss it, but I do miss it, if that makes sense. I miss the camaraderie. On Facebook, you see some of the guys. We post pictures, old pictures of us way back in the day, and it just brings back very, very good memories. So for Josh, I say all this to say, the world is your oyster. Your time in the Air Force, even though you're in Afghanistan, enjoy it to the utmost. If you plan to do 20 years, it'll go fast. Because as I look back, it did go fast. During the 20 years, it didn't seem like that. But looking back, the time went fast. You meet a lot of good people. You'll learn a lot. You'll mature. And it was just a wonderful experience. And if you want to hook up with me, want me to tell you more experiences, I got more. I'd be happy to share my experiences with you and anybody who's watching this video. Thank you, and I really appreciate this opportunity.